All right, so turn it back on. And remember where you left off before you pull off. And that's what I just did. Now I'm like, oh, where did I leave off? So don't do that. Do what I did. Let me just kind of get this row straight really quick, and then I'll get back into talking about the technique. This isn't going to be perfect because I am trying to do this on myself in a very small mirror that's kind of far away from me. I can't do 4. Let me try 3.5. Better. Okay, so I'm just getting this line straight from like visually. I could see it. You know, I said I was going to start on the side of the neck and I ended up doing so. Maybe it'll be easier to show you guys here, and then I'll just fill that in a bit. Let's start right about here. Okay, so I'm going to start my first row here. I couldn't feel that at all. Remember, slide it over to the side and you just barely move it up. Slide it to the side, and I'm looking. I'm only looking at just those small electrodes right there. I'm ignoring the smart heat. I'm just going to slide it up just that much. It probably looks like I'm not even moving it, but that is the type of overlap that you're going to need when you're doing this. I'm kind of going this way, not staying straight here. That's another thing. Really watch, are you working in straight lines? A lot of times on the face, we'll start here and we'll try to work straight lines, and notice, are you going like this? Are you starting to curve over here? Be mindful of that. Otherwise, you're going to start getting into weird scenarios where you have gaps, and then you may start overlapping too much in an area. And that's what I was doing. I was starting to curve. If I was doing this on somebody, it's much easier to stay straight. Anybody have a question right now? Good pressure, you guys. I'm really like digging this into the skin. You probably, I don't know if that's visible for you guys, but that's just going to keep them really comfortable. On the face, I did the same thing. Did you hear that vacuum difference? Because I was talking to you guys like this. It was off, so I went like that, and then the vacuum activated. So if you hear that vacuum difference, just remember, just adjust the handpiece just a little bit, just like this. Don't lift off the skin, don't go like that, but just a tiny adjustment and you'll hear that vacuum, usually. Sometimes you just can't help it though. Sometimes like on bony areas like the forehead, you try to squeeze the skin and get that vacuum to activate, but sometimes you can't. Let me turn off somebody's video really quick. Oh, she did. I see a lot of chats coming in. Do you guys want to unmute yourselves and ask?
Kara?
Yes.
Are you using the foot pedal, and would you recommend gridding?
I am not using the foot pedal for the VFR. I prefer the trigger on the actual handpiece, but you can use the foot pedal. That's fine. It's just a preference for me. I like to just trigger it. I just feel like I have more control. But sometimes I do use the foot pedal. If you were on last week and we were doing the V form here, then yes, we have to. Otherwise, we would create shoulder issues. And then what was your second question?
Would you recommend gridding? Like to grid the face with the white makeup liner?
You can, but the problem is you're gonna have to, as you're going, wipe, like it's gonna take you a lot longer because you're gonna have to wipe that off, alcohol the area, make sure not to get the alcohol on this treated area. So it's just gonna be more time consuming. So I feel like this technique that I'm showing you guys right now, trust me, it probably is like, well, she's not doing a very good job. I'm not, because I'm trying to do this in a mirror that's far away or on the computer. But if I were to do it on somebody, this technique, after you've done it 3 or 4 times, you'll have a perfect overlap. So I personally don't like to, just because of timing, and you don't want to pulse over that white eyeliner. You'd want to remove it, alcohol it, make sure you don't get alcohol in the treated area. Hope that helps. All right, so I left off right here. What's nice about this is I can really see my row, right? I can really see my line. Now I'm going to talk about heat spread in just a second. So let me finish this row. I like to go right underneath the submental, or I should say right on the submental, right under the jawline, because that's where I have more of my laxity. Really good pressure here because it's a bony area. So what I'm going to do here, because I'm right on the jawline, is I'm going to squeeze. So I'm going to make sure to push the tissue down here so the vacuum activates, and I'm going to push the tissue here so the vacuum activates. So you're going to squeeze it. So any area that's just not flat, where like here, it's perfect for the vacuum to activate. It's easy. But when you get on the face, when you start kind of working here on the jawline, you may want to be right there on the jawline, but then the vacuum's hanging off. Then you push the skin from below to make sure you activate it. So just keep that in mind when you're working in bony areas. You can squeeze, you can pinch. Even if an area has been treated, it's not going to hurt. You have gloves on. You can pinch that area that's just been treated totally fine to get that vacuum to activate for their comfort. If you really can't get the vacuum to activate, just use more pressure for their comfort. Some people, you can't use the vacuum. If they're much older and they're thin skin, that vacuum will start to create petechiae. You can see that it's going to bruise. So you have to turn the vacuum off. So you don't want their whole face bruised. So in that case, they're probably just going to be at a lower energy setting than they maybe would be lower than they would be with the vacuum. But just use good pressure, because pressure really is key to making this comfortable. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about how do I get my actual rows really tight. So now we know how to get the pulses tight, but the rows. So again, I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to put it half into the red. So halfway. It's going to seem like, no, that's too much of an overlap. And it's not. It's actually right next to each other. So half into the red. I'm going to come down a little bit further. And then roll it over. And that's your next row, second row. All right, so now I'm going to try to really show you guys this. That's as much as I go up. I'm not on the thyroid area yet, so I'm good there. I'm going to pull my skin over just a bit because I'm starting to get kind of close. Plus, we need to use pressure, and pushing on the jugular, that's not fun, choking them. So I'm just pulling that tissue over. So I'm not on my esophagus, trachea, whatever, all that stuff in there. Just like that. That's it. It looks like I'm hardly moving, but look how far I'm already up from where I started. Whew, that's bitey up there. I'm taking it down to 3 joules. I'm being a baby today. Oof, even 3 is. Yowzers. When I say that, it's nothing I can't sit through, obviously. I'm still going. That vacuum activated really well because I pushed the skin. All right, so now we have 2 rows done. So now, how do I get an overlap of this next row? Since it's a bigger red area, we're not going to put it half in this large area now, otherwise that would be too much of an overlap. So I want to, I forgot to mention something. So when I said putting it half into the red and then rolling it over, that it may seem like too much, that, oh my gosh, I'm overlapping too much. But there's a couple things to think about. There's a lot of plastic around here. So just keep that in mind. The only thing treating the skin are just those small electrodes. So there's a lot of plastic here. Additionally, heat spreads a bit. So when you put it half in the red, it's not too much because when you roll it over, the plastic and a little bit of heat spread, and it's just perfect. So now how do I get a tight overlap now of the second row since I don't have just one red row to go off of? Now I have two bigger ones. You're just gonna really keep in mind how big this little area is and that's pretty much it. How big is that area here? So half into the red, I would just kind of split that in the middle because that's two rows. This is hard. This is confusing too right here because my skin is so reactive, very reactive. Like when I scratch myself, I turn red immediately. So because this is reactive, this looks like it's been treated and it's just a reaction. So let me start from here and work down so it's not confusing. Okay, so I put it half into the row I just treated. I was gonna say I didn't feel that. So that it was not happy. It was sensing that I was not flat on the skin. That's great. Huge part of this being so safe is that if it does not think you're properly on the skin, it will not fire. Now, I could have been perfectly flat with all of these electrodes on the skin, but maybe the vacuum couldn't couple in tissue, so it thinks you're not on the skin because I can't find tissue to couple in. So we'll try it again. Half into the row I just treated, not half into the full area. Really push the tissue up. Now it's happy, the vacuum activated. So I'm just gonna move down that much. Any questions, you guys? And that's what happens. You feel like, oh, I'm getting on a roll. And you're getting your overlap and you're moving and grooving, and then ding, you have to wipe the electrodes. But the positive of that is your patient usually loves to hear that noise because they're like, oh, I get a break. So that for me, like when I treat my mom or my friends, especially my mom is so crazy. I've told you guys in the past webinars that she used to own a cosmetic surgery center here in Vegas, and she had every laser and device under the sun, and she was the first to get in the mirror and do it on herself. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but my mom's just such an aggressive type, and she thinks the higher it is, the better it's going to be. So I should never listen to her. She's always like, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. I know better, not to. But she, will get to the point where maybe someone else at 5 joules would say, okay, let's stay here. I can't really tolerate anymore. She won't tell me, and we'll go up to 6. I mean, I do this safely. I didn't do her first treatment at 6 joules. I probably did her first treatment at 3 joules. Made sure she healed well. Then the next time she came in, we treated her at 4 joules. Made sure she healed well, 5 joules. Made sure she healed well, 6 joules. So, even though it may be uncomfortable for her at 6 joules, she'll just, endure it because that's in her mind. And I can tell she's doing that because when this little ding happens, she's, like, Mom, why didn't you tell me? There's no need to be tortured by this handpiece. It's an aggressive handpiece. Now she's kind of learned that, okay, I don't want to sit through that. All right, so I'm going to scrub this. They are going to be hot. So I also like to recommend having cool packs, ice around. I think I've talked to you guys about this, that I love gloves. and just putting ice in gloves, because there's that nice thick barrier for most gloves. If your gloves are a bit thinner and it's too cold, because you don't want to create a burn with ice on the skin, just wrap it in gauze, and then you can give it to them and they can hold it, because I can feel it starting to heat up. So for me, I'm okay, but for some patients, they would want to hold the ice on it while you're doing the other side. So for their comfort, you know, you can have that around, which is great. And I usually send everybody home with a pack of ice, because when the whole area is treated, it's hot. Even if you treated them at 2 joules, it's still going to be hot. And we're going to talk about what to put on after the treatment, and that for just a bit locks in the heat, so it starts to get really hot. So make sure to have ice around after you put on their post-treatment, and then it starts to calm down. All right, so I've been talking so much I forgot where I left off. Oh shoot, guys. I think I'm gonna start another row. I forgot. Did you hear that vacuum? How it was like, it wasn't happy. I'm gonna really squish. It wasn't the perfect vacuum, but wasn't terribly uncomfortable. Any questions? I'm just gonna look, I'm gonna put my finger here because I'm gonna lift off and I don't want to forget. Make sure I'm going straight. So that's where I just treated. Move it down just a tad. I mean, again, it looks like I'm barely moving it, but that's what you need to do to get a perfect overlap. You just have to be very, very good at quickly looking. I mean, quickly, you'll get good at this, and then speed will increase naturally. But quickly looking at the electrodes and the skin, the electrodes and the skin. So when you look at the electrodes, you can see, okay, only that part was treated. Boop, move down that much.
Hey, Kara.
Hi.
Jeannie Ziegler.
Hi.
When you are treating the forehead handpiece and you're not getting that vacuum, do you turn it off and keep treating? Are you still getting an effective treatment?
With the vacuum off?
Yes.
Oh yeah, the vacuum's just for comfort.
Okay.
Yeah, so the efficacy will be the same.
Okay.
But I mean, there's tricks of possibly, you know, keeping that, I'm choking myself, you know, keeping that vacuum on. But sometimes, and you probably know this, sometimes people just have such thin, bony forehead. So it's just kind of impossible. You're squeezing and you just can't get it to activate. Totally fine to turn it off. Okay. And in that case, I just like to use more pressure for their comfort.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then squeezing, some people try to squeeze this way, and you don't want to do that because the vacuum is at the top and the bottom. It's these like little openings here and here. So if you squeeze this way, it's not really helping you much. When you squeeze that way, that's what's helping the top and the bottom vacuum to activate. So try that as well before you turn it off. And if you try it and it just doesn't work, that's fine. Just use more pressure.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so I just finished that row. So now we're going to keep in mind, how big is that? And we're going to put it half into the red, about right there. So I don't want to, I'm going to push this over. Push this over. Any other questions? Make sure I'm going straight here because I have the mirror right here and I'm still trying to look at myself on the computer camera. So I was starting to go this way. So I'm glad I caught myself there. So straighten up here. I'm gonna use the mirror because that's much better. If you guys have the ability to go into your offices right now, maybe even alone. Okay, I just got a ding. I have to scrub the tip. I'm gonna remember where I left off. Right at that line. If you have the ability to get into your office right now, even alone, get in the mirror and practice this. This is the handpiece that's the hardest to learn technique for sure. It's fun to do, it's easy to do. Like the V form, it's a bit more challenging because you can come off the skin when you're moving. With this one, that's not the case. And it's fun and easy. However, really perfecting your overlap is the hardest thing. So if you do have the ability, go into your office, practice on yourself like I'm doing right now in the mirror, and see what you look like the next day. Are you stamped, or are you, really did it very, a nice solid overlap and treatment of your rows and your pulses. Or if, you can bring your husband in or your wife in or your daughter in, whoever, if you do have that ability to go into the office, practice it now. This is a great time to really learn that overlap because it's better to mark them up and be stamped than your clients and they're looking at their face like, what happened? No matter what, they're going to matrix marks on their skin, so they're not going to look completely normal. But when it's really stampy, it's kind of like, well, they'll question two things. Like, one, I look even more crazy than if it was just a tight, perfect overlap with the skin. But secondly, they'll question, did I get an effective treatment? Because there's a lot of areas that weren't treated, so you don't want that. So, really, I would take this time and practice.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
And we haven't really been able to get our machine on or trained or anything yet, but you're talking about the tip being able to be used 3 times? And this,
around. So,
and the study requires 3 treatments?
Okay, so you're in the US in the IRB study.
Yes.
It's going to require, yes, at least 3, but you can go up to 6. So if somebody has really bad acne scarring, usually it's 3, it's not quite there yet. So you can continue because the IRB study is going to look for 2 things and FDA is going to look for 2 things. One, is it safe, of course, but also is it effective? Is there efficacy to it? So feel free to keep going, 6 treatments. We give you more than enough tips to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so I left off on that line. Half into the red. So when I left off there, I can visually see that row. So I'm going to go half into this row right at that line that I left off. This is my favorite handpiece for multiple reasons. It's my favorite to do. I don't know, it's just so fun for me. It's kind of a soothing, fun treatment. I never get bored of it. Kind of like the IPL. IPL will never be boring to me because it requires my mind and thinking and seeing endpoints. But for some reason, this one doesn't require that as much, but it's just fun for me. Oof, my cream's starting to wear off. I think I've been talking too much, you guys. So I love it for that as an operator, but additionally, I love it for the results. It's just, you completely change people's lives when they have bad acne scarring, which I had, and it changed my life. So if you guys just got this handpiece and you haven't seen the results yet, just wait. If you're part of the IRB study, sorry, it's hard to talk when I'm up here. I'm gonna go one. No, that's good. That's right. Jawline. If you guys are part of the IRB study, and you haven't had like a Skype with me on the study requirements and the documents, I actually simplified that, and I just created a video where I just videoed myself going through all of the requirements, all of the documents needed, how they need to be filled out, how many treatments, how often, what type of patients, every question that you'd have for the study. And you can get that by emailing us. This is just for the US customers. If you guys are overseas, don't worry about that. You're not part of the study. You've been using the handpiece forever. But if you are in the US, you can just email us. It's clinicalusa@vioramed.com. Again, that's clinicalusa@vioramed.com. And I can feel the skin tightening. And we will email you that video so you can watch that and really know what to do for the study. I feel like that's so much easier than Skyping with me, because then you can watch it on your own time. You can rewatch it when you need to. And it really covers any questions that you would have. If you have additional questions, then just email clinical and we can answer those for you. All right, so now I'm gonna go half into where I was just at. So there's my row I just did. So I'm gonna go half into the red there. I'm gonna roll it over. Lots of questions coming in. Does anybody want to unmute? Oops, I slipped.
Kara, you said that we can do it for acne scars. What about if they have acne?
No, not this handpiece. So this handpiece, we couldn't treat that. So you could get their acne under control with, sorry, I can't talk because I'm pushing so hard. With the IPL, hold on. With the IPL blue light. So acne protocol, do you have the IPL?
I do.
Awesome. Do you have our microderm or microdermabrasion in general?
I do not.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I do not have the microdermabrasion.
Oh, no, microderm. Okay. Do you dermaplane?
I do not.
Okay. So the best acne protocol would involve exfoliating the skin beforehand, but that's okay. If you don't have that, you can still treat. So the best way of going about it is for them to come in once or twice a week, every 3 to 7 days, and doing the blue light with the IPL, which is the 415 nanometer filter, and every 2 weeks to do the 415 and then the 580 filter. So it can be done in the same day. It just can't be done as often as blue light. So every 2 weeks, so the first treatment they come in, you do the 415 blue light on them, then you do the 580 filter. Then they come in the next week just for the 415. Then they come in the next week, then you can combine them again, because SR really can only be done every 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, where blue light can be done much sooner and more often, which it should be done more often. But the reason why I recommend pairing the 580 with the 415 after is because it regulates the sebation glands. I'm scrubbing the tip right now, you guys. Does that help?
Sure does.
And then if they're left with acne scarring, then come in with this.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, I'm using my hand. Use my glove. Okay. So now,
Carol, how many passes are you doing?
sorry?
How many passes have you done? How many are you doing?
Oh, just one. So with the VFR, We only do one pass.
Okay.
Yeah, any more would just be way too much for the skin. So that's what's nice. You only have to do one pass. All right, I left off right about there, I think. Any questions?
Kira, this is only for lighter skins, is that correct? No Fitzpatrick 5 or 6?
You can treat, let me finish this, sorry. You can treat 5 and 6 because it's radio frequency. However, you have to keep in mind the high heat that it creates, right? So you're very smart to ask that. You can get more aggressive in terms of energy with a lighter skin type. Like myself, I'm a skin type 2, so much safer to work the energy up higher on me each time I come in. With skin types 4, 5s, and 6s, because they can respond very differently to high heat, you just have to be very mindful of that and very careful. So you're typically working at lower energy on them, but absolutely you can treat them. If you want to be really extra safe with skin type 6 and 5, you can put them on a topical melanin inhibitor for 2 to 4 weeks before you start doing treatments, just to make sure their melanocytes do not go haywire and do something you don't want them to do, like create PIH.
And I worry about keloids. I would worry about keloids as well.
Oh, right, for sure. And if they if they're prone to keloid scars, so you can always look where they got their ears pierced, or ask them if they have any scars on the body, making sure, because keloid scars can sometimes be confused with other type of scarring. So really making sure that it's a true keloid. They would be contraindicated in general. So that would just be a big risk because it is a contraindication.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Where we know skin type 6s have a huge potential of keloiding. So you really want to check their body well. And if you question, are they susceptible to PIH, you can look at areas of friction on them. So for example, if they're heavier possibly, and they have kind of rolls on their neck, they'll have a dark line because of the friction of that skin rubbing together. If it's a woman, you can always look under breast tissue because that's an area of friction. Underarms sometimes. So if they are susceptible to PIH, then it is better to put them on that topical melanin inhibitor day and night before they get treatments done. Just make sure that your melanin inhibitor does not also include like a retinol, because then the skin would be too sensitive to have treatments. Any other questions that somebody wants to unmute themselves? We'll do one more row and then we'll talk about post-treatment care guidelines. So half into the red of where I just treated, up there. And you can see I can start moving pretty quickly once you have your technique down. In the beginning, it's going to feel like, oh my God, why did that just take me 2 hours to treat a face? Because you're concentrating and you're trying to get that tight overlap. Once your brain has it, you start moving and grooving. You start working quickly because you know exactly what to do. I'm going to go this way so I can show you guys better. Any questions? I'm pulling the skin over, way over. Make sure that I'm not pulsing right over the thyroid area. I'll go a bit slower to show you guys that technique. Okay, so if you guys carry like a really good, great skincare line, and you have something maybe just like pure stem cells, plant stem cells, or if you guys do PRP, you can put that on after this. We actually want to do a study, this and PRP. Just haven't gotten to that yet because we're in the middle of the study just for getting it approved, you know. But I mean, you can do it. So, but make sure that whatever you're using, it really is a pure form. There's no added stuff. It's pure plant-based stem cells or PRP. Of course, that's going to be pure. And really nothing else after the treatment other than a water-based emollient. So if you guys don't have stem cells and PRP, don't worry, that's totally fine. You can just use that water-based emollient. If you guys are looking for a skincare line, by the way, and that has stuff like this, is really good for just like post-cosmetic treatments or during cosmetic treatments and just in general aging. We have a great one that we have not fully partnered up with, but we were in the midst of it before the pandemic, and they were going to join us at all of our Viora academies to show you guys their skincare line. But they're really, we never wanted to partner with a skincare line unless we really knew and believed that it was a great one. So we haven't in all these years until we met. Oops, sorry, let me mute somebody. Where's my mouse? My mirror's in the way, and I don't think I can mute with my glove. Shoot. Donna, if you're on, will you mute everyone? So until we met Antiage, and I love their name, Antiage. It's spelled A-N-T-E-Age, A-G-E, Antiage.
The Viora hands-on training.
Hold on.
And I'm working too. I just finished my, I mute when I'm talking to the patients, and I mute when I'm
Sorry, guys.
when I'm typing.
Mute all. Let's see. Mute all. Yes. There we go. And then, of course, you guys can unmute yourselves if you have questions. Okay, so it's going to be hard to get this glove back on because my hand's sweaty. But I can't, my mouse won't register, or my little mouse pad won't register my finger with the gloves on. So Antiage, they're very backed with science, and they're very science-based. So, you know, we really looked into it, and we really, really were confident in what they do. So that's a great one. If you guys are really looking for a skincare line, don't have one yet, that would be someone to contact. And this is the perfect time right now. Like if we have a lot of downtime and you know that you wanted to start carrying a skincare line in general, this is the perfect time to start reaching out to those companies and talking with them and seeing what they have to offer. So I just wanted to let you guys know that, because I get that a lot of those questions, like, which line would you recommend? You know, someone like SkinCeuticals, it's a huge company, but I love them. I love their stuff. But sometimes the price point is too much for our offices, and that's totally understandable. Or maybe because so many offices carry it, you want something different. So that is another great line. And then I'm going to talk about post-treatment care, and the brand that I use is another good line for post-laser treatment. So I'll talk about that in just a second. Let me finish this row, and then I'll stop and I'll finish this off camera. And then I'll go through all the questions, and we'll go through post-care, and I think that'll be it. Any questions now? You guys can unmute yourselves.
Hello. Hello.
I hear someone unmuted themselves. You had a question?
Yes, if we use a PRP together with a V-FR handpiece, which one first we can do for the treatment?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
So I mean, PRP first or V-FR first?
VFR. So
Okay.
you would create the openings pretty much. So this is creating openings in the skin, which is great. It's kind of like microneedling. When you microneedle, it opens the tissue to receive the products.
Okay.
So this is creating openings, so then you can put in the PRP.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Same with the plant-based stem cells.
Yes, I do.
All right, so I think that's probably enough. I mean, I don't want to bore you guys out of your minds.
Kara, how does this compare to microneedling?
Okay, so a couple different differences. That doesn't make sense. A couple differences. So what I immediately want to say is it's 100 times better, but why? We have one thing with heat that we can really, with heat, get down into those dermal layers and stimulate those fibroblast cells. Now, microneedling can too with a mechanical injury, but with heat, we get a ton of fibroblast cell proliferation, so collagen and elastin. Two, we're able to get two different biological responses. We can get, with heat, coagulation of keratinocytes, skin cells, so we get new skin cell renewal. Additionally, that collagen elastin, and we have that controllability to put it in the depth that we want. Microneedling can as well. That controllability of our depth, of course. And then really the biggest thing is that we can do ablation. So with ablation, think of it like a peel, and you're really removing the surface of the skin. It's doing that as well. So we can do that at the same time, which is what I just did, because I was able to smell the tip and I had that smell of burnt skin. So what I was doing is I was going into my deep collagen layers for tightening, but then I was doing ablation for resurfacing the skin, where microneedling is not going to do that. So that's why the results, you can get good results with acne scar with microneedling. Great, we've seen those results, but they're so phenomenal with this handpiece because of that ablative response, because it's just radio frequency, and radio frequency is so good at building collagen, because we can reach those higher heat temperatures and really get coagulation of the skin cells. So our acne scar results are to the point where we have an office that I always check in with everybody, like during the study, make sure you guys are doing well when you guys email questions, like how are the results going? And we have had offices say, the acne scar result is so good that we had to draw a photo of a face, and now I recommend it to everyone, because you have to measure the mean diameter of each acne scar. And they got to the point where the acne scars just look like pores, so they were hard to find to actually measure them. And with microneedling, I've never seen it get to that point of phenomenal results. Same with overall aging and lifting the skin, and taking years off the skin. So that's the difference. But I always like to talk about results too, just because this handpiece is just so good when used properly.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else want to unmute? I'm not too warm right now, by the way. It's really red. You would think I was really hot, but it's just kind of just warm and sensitive. I'll be sensitive tomorrow for sure. If I would have stayed at 4 joules, I went down to 3. because I'm a baby today. But if I would have stayed at 4, I probably would have been pretty warm and would have wanted an ice pack to ice the area right now. I like to give everybody, like I said, an ice pack when they're leaving anyways, if I'm treating them at my house. And I treat for like creating training videos or Skypes if we weren't in a pandemic. I could be doing this on somebody, which would have been helpful. But just send them home with an ice pack just for safety too, you know, just to calm the area. But usually they're pretty hot after and they want that. Any other questions unmuted? All right, so I'm going to take my glove off and look at our chat here. Take the mirror down. It's in my way. Okay, let me scroll way up. Oh, that's funny. I was accidentally typing.